Hello? Oh, I need to fix my. Hello?
Hello. Right, I'm just going to share the link.
I just shared a picture without the link. Hold on. Don't switch. Hello? Can you hear me?
Hello. Yeah.
Oh, great. There we
Roger.
go.
I'm just going to. So have you shared the link?
No, I just shared a picture of the two of us here saying join us without a link. There we go. All right. So I'm recording now from the get-go. So they'll probably edit this part out where it's just the
I
two
would
of
hope
us
so, because it's a bit embarrassing.
being silly. We got to get your video setup fixed, man. I mean, the camera's capturing like this horrible ceiling light. We got to get you a studio.
I would appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah.
A green screen. I would appreciate the whole setup.
Do you have some other space in your house that could work? I mean, maybe if I had a separate camera that not pointing at the ceiling, that could help. That could help.
Yeah, I don't want to do it too low, because you'd start seeing a bed and all of the other embarrassing furniture as well. So
why is that considered a bit embarrassing? I know what you mean, but it's kind of bizarre. It's like, oh, I have furniture. I'm ridiculous. It's like kind of weird.
A bit concerned that nobody seems to be joining us now.
It's just the two of us. We'll have to just shoot the shit, I guess. Yeah. So on the agenda, I went ahead and prepared these smooth slides. So it'd be a little bit of a shame if I can't use. We have the Godfathers. We have at least one person. That's excellent. Is there a little bit of a contrast here? Let's see here. I think people can't tell when the resolution gets so low. Hey everyone, good to see you all. I think we're going to give everyone a few more seconds. At least get Tomato in here. Should probably announce it a little bit more in advance so that people have a chance to get in time. There we go. Good afternoon, Zazik or Jan, depending on which name applies. So I have 8 questions I prepared. Hey, I have 8 questions I prepared to tackle, or 7. That's all I have. Martin chickened out. He was supposed to talk about the KPI scheme, which maybe people are more interested in anyway, but we will see. We have No Face. Good to have you on board, sir or madam or whatever you are. Maybe you're a robot. I don't know. JoyStream doesn't care. Let's see here. How long should we wait? I'll let you decide, Ben.
I think until maybe 5:05.
5 past.
Yeah.
All right. Let's wait. I think Robert said he will possibly join later. He has some people over or something, so he had to step out, but he will possibly join later. So it's not going to be that many this time. We have 7up. Welcome. Welcome. Oh. And we have 7up's kid, I think, in the background. And we have XCOM. Welcome. All right. 6:05. I'm going to go. If people lose the context, it was their fault. So good to see everyone for this community call. I'm Badejo Mender, as you may know. To my, well, right on the screen, I have Ben Holden Crowther, the founding member. Sar, is it King or Sar? I don't know. I'm just going to call
I
you
prefer dictator.
Sar.
I just want to make it clear that
Okay, okay,
I'm.
okay. The founding member dictator. Um, and yeah, it's good to have everyone on this community call. I guess I could say two words about sort of what's going on before I jump into some questions that people had submitted. Yo, who's that? I want to reply to whoever. Yo, no face. Yo. Um, so what are we doing these days? We're still working on Giza. We're there was past few days we thought that maybe that there was going to be a huge delay. Hold on, I need to mute you. No face. I'm sorry. No offense, Boris. I'm going to mute you as well. Robert was good at this. How do I do that? Mute. I can't mute Boris. That's weird. Okay, he's in some kind of a like.
If you want to make me an admin or whatever that is as well, then
okay,
I'm happy to.
Let me do that. Make host.
I'm not sure what that would do. Yeah, that sounds
okay. Good. There we go. So anyway, we're working on Giza, Boris, and we're trying to get that out the door. Now, the best estimate we have is late December. So that's a very big release. We have one new big role, which is the distributor group. We have two new working groups, believe it or not. So everyone is going to get a role in the DAO at this point. So it's going to be really exciting. And now we're looking at late December. So that's the deadline there. So I guess I'll just jump into the questions unless someone wants to intervene with a higher priority point or question. So I have 8 questions, I believe, that were submitted in advance. I'll jump through those. So how do I do that? Do I full screen myself or? I guess you guys. Depending on how you see me. So let me put myself as speaker. I'm not sure what that does to the recording, but anyway. So first question, someone asked. Maybe we should have attribution on these. Well, I guess Ben, maybe you don't know who asked. Do you? But no. Maybe attribution would be useful.
Definitely.
Someone asked, can future projects fork Pioneer the same way Atlas can be forked? And I'm not sure what the person means by future projects. Anyone can fork Pioneer, certainly. If you're another substrate chain, you can certainly fork it. It will be hard for you to use Pioneer if your substrate blockchain doesn't look very similar or really identical to ours, but you can. But if the person is just asking, can I as a person just run a fork of Pioneer, just like people can run a fork of Atlas? You certainly can. We expect people to do so. Probably gateways would do so because it's like a public service kind of a thing to offer people a way to go from the content side into the governance side. You can't enforce that, but I think that's sort of like a very cheap service to run for the community. But yes, that's the answer. I'm not expecting there to be like tons of innovation in terms of different kinds of Pioneers because I think there's only so much like importance to having different ways of slicing the same pie there. But yeah, can you mute Boris because I think he has a bunch of background noise coming in, Ben, but I think he may be in some kind of pseudo mode. So that's the answer to that question. Next question is voting power. I understand that you see the future of voting power more concentrated in the hands of validators and nominators, ultimately founding members, plus the other 85%, to decide to mint tokens when they want anything done, which in turn has to have a positive effect on token value by increasing demand. Basically, classic stakeholder-shareholder relationship. This is a much different economic model to what we play now. So I guess it's not really a clear question here. I guess maybe an observation. Just to clarify one thing, it's not the case that voting power will be concentrated in validators and nominators. That's a misunderstanding. I think maybe there are some incentives in the current runtime that cause that. But in the Olympia runtime, anyone who has been staking for any purpose, so if you're staking for a proposal or you're staking for a job in the working groups, maybe you're a lead, maybe you're a worker, if you're staking for any reason, you can still use that stake to vote in elections on the council. So it's not as if the validators or nominators are in some privileged position to be able to participate in governance. Everyone could reuse their stake in governance. But I guess the question here is how we're doing it now is a little different to how it will be a mainnet. That's certainly the case in many respects. I think the most important difference between mainnet and now in terms of governance is really that we don't have really good like incentives for people to bother with voting right now. I think there are some incentives. I think people organize themselves a little bit. I think Ben, correct me if I'm wrong, but there are like these voting clubs almost in Joystream at this point where people try to get their favored person into the council. Isn't that right?
Yeah, I certainly think there's a certain degree of that happening at the moment. It's yeah, it's very interesting how it's
It
sort
is
of evolved
interesting.
over time. We definitely
Yes.
didn't used to have that.
No,
So yeah,
because no
yeah,
one
and
cared.
different factions of different kind of the different parts of the Russian community almost. So it's kind of interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
we do definitely do have a degree of that.
Yes. So I do expect that kind of activity to go on mainnet, but I do think the incentive to vote or pay attention on testnet is quite a bit lower for so many reasons. So that means voting and like being a council member and presenting some kind of platform for how to change the system. That whole game is not really working the same way today, where there's so little at stake, and there aren't really any sort of long-term like stakeholders in the TJoy allocation. It doesn't really sort of make sense because there's no link between TJoy and Joy, like the mainnet Joy. So it doesn't really work as an incentive. Oh, we got a huge question, so maybe we can get back to. No, okay. I think that these are the questions. I'll get back to them. Egrex, thank you very much. So yeah, I'm not sure if this person is happy with my answer, but there are many differences. Not only validators and nominators can participate in governance with their stake. There will be more of an incentive to vote well and pay attention to candidates, and therefore for good candidates to try to separate themselves from bad candidates on mainnet than on testnet. So that's different. If I didn't address your question, I hope you're here and you can get back at me. Cool. Next question. Jump in anytime if anyone wants to. I didn't. Can people unmute themselves? Like actively? I guess you can, but maybe you're the host.
Yeah, that's a good question. Just put it in the chat if you'd like to say anything, of course. Now, yeah, we'll unmute you.
Okay, cool. Next question is mainnet KPIs. In another message, you hinted there will be KPI on mainnet, just completely managed and paid for by the council and working groups without pseudo or set balance. Who will top up the council mint? Gateways? So I think maybe what I said was maybe a little bit misunderstood here. Ultimately, when on mainnet, you have the voters who vote for council members they believe are going to do a good job. Council members are responsible for the day-to-day operation of the system. They have to make sure that they hire the right working group leads, that the dev team is spending enough resources on the right things, all the sort of stuff that you would expect in order for the system to work well. And they can use whatever management technique they want. They can use OKRs or KPIs or some sort of other management style I've never even heard of. But at the end of the day, their role is just to make sure everyone in the DAO is working together harmoniously, using the resources available in the optimal way to basically do what the voters do at the end of the day, which presumably is for the system to become bigger and more successful and so on. And so they may use KPIs like in terms of like the broader idea of key performance indicators, not KPIs in the sense that JS Genesis is currently doing specifically in order to get the council to do certain things. So on mainnet, the council may be using KPIs or any other management style that they choose to do. Um, so I hope that answers that part of the question. Who will top up the council mint? That's another question, and that happens basically automatically. So over a given period of time, the council, you can think of the council as having a budget basically. So they can spend or issue a maximum certain number of tokens for a given period of time. So imagine let's say they can print $2 million over a 6 month period. These are just random numbers. Obviously, then the quantities wouldn't be in dollars, but still, you get the idea. And then when another 6 month period begins, if they had spent all of the funds that they could for whatever purpose, so that's salaries for the working groups, spending proposals, it's any funding anything that the DAO needs to have joy tokens for, really. Then that budget is reset basically. So then for the next 6 months, they would have a fresh $2 million of capital to spend. That will be their budget, and they'd have to use that optimally across all the different ways they could use it basically. So no one will top it up. There's an automatic resetting or resupplying, you should say, of the budget basically. Now there's a question there. What if the system becomes super successful and really they should be able to spend $10 million or $100 million over every 6 month period rather than $2 million, right? That's a fair point. And how you change those parameters is actually a broader topic. There are two ways to do. One is would be a runtime upgrade, and the other would be that it would be a proposal that itself would require probably quite a few councils in a row to confirm using a new feature of their new proposal system called constitutionality. So we haven't really explored that. That's coming out in Olympia, but basically that's the way you can make very sort of high risk changes to the system using the proposal system. Sort of like changing the constitution of a country, if you will. Did I cover that? Everything there, Ben?
I think that was pretty good. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, you kind of got to think about what KPIs are really for. And in my mind, it's kind of simulating what we're trying to do with the testnet is simulate kind of the economic environment on the mainnet. So the KPIs are us kind of forcing people to kind of think about increasing the value of the testnet almost, which is basically impossible because we're in control of it. But on mainnet, it will be a real incentive if you're a stakeholder in the system to be kind of increasing the overall kind of value of not the product, but the kind of the network. So the KPIs are a very artificial way of doing this at the moment. So it's difficult to say what sort of scheme we'd use on mainnet. But yeah, I think you gave a pretty good explanation there.
Yeah, that's good to point out that the KPI system now is really very artificial, simulating basically that there is a market sort of giving a signal all the time to the voters and to the council about, hey, we think that the prospects of what you're doing is either good or bad, basically the way that a public company would look at its stock price as a way to indicate whether they're doing good or bad decisions. Just that's putting it in very stark terms, but you get the idea. Okay. People should just feel free to interject we have a few more people here. If they want to. Otherwise, I will keep on trucking. Gateway training. In this video, 1266, you explain that gateway operators have to buy Joy and burn it for gigabytes, pay bandwidth providers, plus invest in product development, and that you expect some founding members to grow into that role. This is correct. Do you see a way the testnet to incentivize and train us for that? That's an excellent question. Very insightful. This person knows their stuff. So credit to whoever submitted this. We got to get the credits up here, Ben. We need some attribution. This is an excellent question. I've thought about this many times. Doing the full gateway thing, obviously, there are missing parts there that we can't do. But we could start very easily. So we could start with basically allowing people or encouraging people really and starting really the gateway working group where people would run their own instances of Atlas, right? So now there's one instance of Atlas running. on JS Genesis infrastructure. That doesn't have to be the only one. And already at that point, each of the different instances, they get to control, for example, the featuring on their specific Atlas version. As people may, I'm not sure everyone has learned, but we're making it more and more possible for for whoever runs Atlas to customize the way that experience feels, right? So, for example, which videos featured on the main section, sort of like the main landing page of Atlas, or which videos featured on each category on the new. Should I just open the site? I'm not sure how to do that with this weird recording software. I'm not going to try to do it. But basically, if you go into Atlas, there are lots of these places where stuff is featured, and there's some curation in there. And that's something that different Atlas operators or gateways could run. And we could do that. I mean, in principle, there isn't a lot of technical obstacles to do it. It's more about manpower and all the other things we're prioritizing. But we could certainly start there. And then, each one of those gateways, maybe like, oh, they wouldn't be called JoyStream. It wouldn't be like joystream.org and joystream.xyz. They probably have totally different names and be totally rebranded, but they could then start to do their own marketing to attract their own user base that doesn't come to joystream.org. So that could probably be done now also. And they would have their own metrics. Now, pushing much beyond that, I haven't thought of, but that could be interesting. And that is possible. I think it's more a matter of priorities. So it's interesting that someone is already interested and looking into this. I think it's a really big and interesting opportunity for people to dive into. So yeah, hopefully we can start to facilitate that a little bit further down the road. So that's gateway training. I'm just going to defer to you, Ben. Anything?
I think that was a really good answer, and I think it's an excellent question. Yeah, that person has a real insight into what we're. Yeah,
that person is a founding member or ought to be one.
They ought to be. I think they probably are, because that is a pretty high level question.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Feedback. Is there a way to integrate new member feedback into the onboarding process? So this one I struggled with what exactly it means. Is there a way? Maybe I should have kept it out, given that I have nothing insightful to say about it. Is there a way to integrate new member feedback into the onboarding process? I mean, onboarding process, what is that? I'm not sure if someone's trying to say something, but is that? Yeah, I'm not sure. We are like Robert, as you may know, is working on improving the onboarding for new community members. I think people have seen maybe some courses that he's putting out. Like we're planning lots of things there. That'll be great. If it's this person is referring to, I'm sure there will be an opportunity to give feedback to that soon. I think Robert just wants to push that a little bit further before it's really clear for you guys what we have in mind for you to give feedback. But I do worry whether I'm just talking about something totally unrelated to what's being asked. If you in general want to give feedback on the way onboarding is working, yes, you can give feedback about that. You can give feedback about everything. The most useful feedback is if you can, of course, solve the problem you're identifying. We know there are problems, and what we struggle with is prioritizing all the different problems that are there and trying to execute on solving them. So the best kind of feedback is, I found this problem, I think this can solve it, and either I can solve it or I have solved it, or give me some resources to go and solve it. That would be better. But again, what do you think, Ben?
I would just say that the way you can provide feedback probably might be by, firstly, you could obviously write to any one of us at JS Genesis. I mean, that might get lost among the messages that we get. The second way would be to do a forum post. That's likely to get a bit more visibility. And if you want to do a proposal, like a kind of signal proposal, a text proposal with whatever your idea is for some sort of improvement, then I think that would be an extremely strong way of making your concerns heard, basically, because then the council have to give their opinions on it. And if it's a big problem, then obviously we'll have to fix it. And obviously, if you're making proposals in that way, then that is that's the idea, basically. So I'm very in favor of that in terms of the family member stuff as well. Yeah, that would be what I'd say.
Yeah, I think we need to help people there just know that this is possible. I suspect many people may have ideas, but they have no clue that I can go and ask for money and very likely get it if what I'm describing is clear and relates to one of the many problems in the DAO currently. So
it's so easy to get bogged down with like the formal stuff, like the KPIs, and think, oh, I have to like follow this.
Yes,
because those are so very established in the way you have to sort them out. But really, even better than that is some kind of original stuff, because that's what you're going to have to do on mainnet. Really, that's what we were almost talking about earlier, that it's going to need a bit of creativity with thinking about how this is all going to work. So if people can have those ideas and make proposals and that sort of stuff, then that's excellent, honestly. Yeah,
I very much agree. It's a good point, actually. It is actually better than solving KPIs, because KPIs are doing what we think is a good idea. It may not be easy, but this is actually you doing it based on your own initiative. All right, let's not beat a dead horse. Next one is newcomer on council. How can a newcomer apply to council or become a validator? Where to get so many coins? At the moment, you need 25 million to become a council and about 5 million to become a validator. All right. So first of all, I should just admit these numbers mean nothing to me. So what does that, Ben, help me out here.
25 million is a very I understand what this person is saying.
How many dollars is that in T-Joy?
I guess Sam or someone would be more familiar with the actual numbers, but that's a lot. That's someone can look that up. That it will be on obviously the exchanges page. But that's a pretty sizable and unobtainable amount for any new person into the system. So I can understand what I'm saying there. But if we do vote for people who are with our own Jez Genesis fund, $700. So that's probably not a very easy amount for people to obtain.
To earn, basically.
Earn as well. Yeah. So the answer to that is we'll vote for people who are good candidates. I think we did used to have like a forum post thing where people could submit their candidacy and we'd vote for them.
What are we doing there? Like, who you're saying we are voting? Let me reveal my ignorance. I have no clue what we are doing in this regard. So who is we? Is it you? Is it Martin?
It was. It has been me historically.
Okay. So you're king both of the council and the funding member program.
Yeah, it's not. It's a bit. It's quite a lot of responsibility. So, if I do see any new people, like I would try not to vote in founding members again, because they've already kind of had the opportunity to show themselves, and obviously they've got.
When you say C, I'm just gonna cut you off because I'm rude. Sorry. When you say C, do you mean that they have applied to get into the council? Is that where you see them?
I wouldn't just automatically vote some new person in just because they've made an application, because you could so easily sybil that, and then I would just be voting for. But if you give some sort of explanation in a forum like we have, I'm not sure how much this is happening now because I haven't really seen it recently, whether people are making forum posts. I certainly haven't seen any of those lately, where you can, if you're a new community member, you can write why you think you'd be a good council member. And if I see reasonable posts there, then I do give those people quite a sizable chunk of tokens. And I think that's how historically some of the founding members, okay, here's Tomato saying, okay, yeah, the voting has been a bit more limited recently. So yeah, it's just so difficult at the moment because we get so many people not writing very much and not saying, really communicating why they would be a good council member. And for me to then put $700 or whatever it is behind them to become a council member, it's sometimes difficult to justify. So there's a question there about how we can get people more easily into the council. Yeah, it's a tricky issue. I would say if you're really convinced that you'd be a good council member, then just send me a message directly, and I've got control of some. Sam saying something again.
Tomato's saying it's temporary. He's saying and person whose name I can't pronounce is leaving. Bye. But but it's a temporary problem. Pioneer V2 will have a far better way for announcing that doesn't involve forum threads. Yes, but I think Tomato, that I don't think that solves it, because you wouldn't even think to announce if you're seeing that everyone who announces has either been elected before, or they have a ton of stake, and you don't. If you don't see any, if you have no reason to think that JS Genesis or someone is going to come in and put a ton of tokens behind you, you wouldn't even bother like investing in having a nice cover photo and like all the stuff you can do in Pioneer. Really, to make that effort, you really need to think that there's some way you can get in there. So I'm not sure I buy that Pioneer can really save us from that specific problem.
One thing I would say anyway is I'm not sure whether council member is necessarily the best role for a new person coming in, because it does need some knowledge of how everything fits together, and it's not necessarily easy to.
I'm not so sure, but there is, if the information was well presented, I think a new person could sort of find their spot on the council.
I think that may be true. Yeah.
So I've aired the radical idea of just JS Genesis just pseudoing the council every time. So every week we see some new fresh faces coming in, maybe some old people, excuse me, probably some founding members or elite people who can be there to sort of help everyone. But basically we make it like a 80 15 5 kind of a mix between totally new people, kind of experienced senior people, and then like Jedis.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad idea, actually. I'm quite in favor of that, honestly, that we should just have some sort of, because it's such an important role for people to start kind of getting onboarded into, that it would almost be a better system than this very relying on this really warped distribution of tokens in the testnet system that we currently have, which doesn't really, obviously it the one problem is that it gets the same people over and over again, which might be really good, but it's not good. They might be good participants. I mean, they might be good council members, but it's not good from a mainnet or founding members perspective of collecting all of the good people that we want and giving everybody an opportunity. So yeah, I think that's something we should pursue. Maybe even talk about that after the call. That's quite a severe problem, which has been reminded us of that there is a lot of friction if you're a new person to get into the council. So this pseudo idea, I don't think it's bad at all. In other areas, I think it would cause problems, but in this particular issue,
because it's like if we make that one intervention, we just say council, and then the rest is sort of administrated by that council. It's still meaningful activity. It's just that we're displacing all the voting, which is now anyway kind of weird. Like,
the voting is bizarre. I mean, as I say, it's just the tokens are. What is that? I mean, to some degree, it's linked to the work people have done on the testnet, which is fair. But in other regards, if you were there 6 months ago, you've got so many more than anybody who's joined recently. So it's horrible. It's a horrible system. I'm behind this.
I wonder why. Maybe actually, in some sense, the people who have the most TJoy are likely to the people who they're likely founding members. They're likely elite people. They should really be thinking, how can I spread this out to get new people in? Because they are obviously very aligned with the prospects of JoyStream overall. They must recognize that right now is the time to build that critical mass of people who really know what they're doing when mainnet arrives. So whoever you are, all the whales in the JoyStream DAO, this is an official message from JS Genesis to all the whales in the JoyStream DAO. Please share your wealth, allow new people to come in. It's going to serve you in terms of having the mainnet be more robust and having more founding members, because more people got to try. There we go.
And especially because voting isn't actually spending tokens, it's just kind of locking them for a little while. So it's not like you're losing any of the value there. You're just signaling that you would like the pool of participants, useful participants, really to grow. So I think that's great. Yeah.
All right. Okay, I think we covered that pretty well. Next one is NFT features. I'd like to understand how NFT generation functionality will be implemented into current list of functions and how it will cooperate with each other. So NFT generation, I guess that's like minting the NFTs, but NFT features is more broad than that. So in the Joystream blockchain currently, this has already been implemented. We really have a fully fledged like NFT market. So you can mint your NFTs, you can auction them away, you can give them to other people, you can sell them to a specific other person. We have the full range of NFT marketplace functionality, equivalent and probably more than OpenSea. It's not an exaggeration to say that. And the design side of that is also now in a very mature state. So the NFT generation features, the minting features will be whenever you. I wish I could just should I just show the designs? I should have been more prepared with showing some designs. Maybe let me circle back to this later in case there are other questions, and I'll see if I can do it. But basically, whenever you, let's say for example, you upload a video, you can choose to also issue an NFT for that video, which is basically the same as saying the person who holds that NFT, it's a one of one, is effectively the owner of that video without any IP claims or anything, but you're like the canonical owner for that video. And you're going to be displayed like on the playback experience for that video. People can see that you're the owner. And then you could do all the normal stuff with auctioning it off, and you can bid on other people's NFTs. If you find a cool video, maybe a video you think is going to go viral in the future, you can go and bid on it and sort of get it below future market price and so on. And obviously the creator gets to actually make the issuance and sell it and get revenue, and they also get royalties. So if an NFT is sold first to someone or issued to someone, maybe for payment, and then it's sold to someone else out in the market, the creator gets a cash flow from that as well, as do the social token holders for this person if they have a social token. But more about that in the future. So you should think of Joystream as having a full NFT marketplace functionality built in for videos, and that the integration in Atlas is that you can do all of these transactions and you can see who owns what. When you see a video, you can see the owner and the channel. So yeah, just think of the normal Atlas experience where you just see ownership information and transactional information combined. And the designers have found a really, I think, nice way of putting it in there, which doesn't sort of, if you just want to watch content and you don't care about who owns anything, it's fine. You don't need to deal with it. Or if you're totally obsessed with all the NFTs and you want to find the new hot thing that's going to go viral, there are special like areas and feeds that you could look at to find that stuff. So I hope that helps. I will try to figure out how to show it on screen, but that's the TLDR on the NFT features, which when will they come out is a little bit unclear. It's kind of unrelated to Giza and Olympia. It's totally different. I think the earliest it could come out is Olympia, realistically, but we will see. Okay, so last question: valuable activities. This is a repeat question, to say it mildly. Current most valuable activities get more founding member points in current experience. So I guess the question is what activities? So do you want to do your normal thing, Ben, where you answer this question?
Yeah. As I said, as you said, I think this is a question we had last time. So when they say current most valuable activities, I think that's a bit strange, because I think most of the time the sort of activities we want are really the same over time. Obviously, participating in roles, being on the council, doing bounties, original kind of projects like DAppLooker or Joystream Stats, or like development stuff, but also projects in the sense of maybe.
How many of those have we had? Too few. I think. How many do you think you could just off?
In terms of like actual services type tools, like
doesn't have to be only tooling. I'm saying anything across, like throwing a festival. I'm not. I wouldn't say that's super useful, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, all the things you could do.
That's.
Yeah.
Oh, so you want a list of those, or you want how many of?
Yeah, I
How
mean,
many?
like roughly, what do you think in terms of the number there of people just coming
Um,
up with a new thing, getting support for it, and it being an important thing for their founding member status?
I'm not necessarily sure they've even got support for it. Like, I wouldn't say even people have
Oh,
necessarily used the proposal system to fund those sorts of things.
why do you
Although
think that
often they
is?
do. Often there is quite a lot of that as well, but not always.
Mhm.
So probably 10 to 15, 10 to 15 is a number that I would just
Okay,
pull out of the. Yeah,
it's not so bad. Okay, it's not so bad. I think it's too few. I mean, what's sitting there is basically it's a pot of gold. You just ask it for money, and
yeah,
you could like cheat it once, just be annoying. But you can also just get money for some project that you think is cool that can help. So I
yeah.
think it's just too hidden and too like obscure how to that you could do that. Um, yeah, it's a no brainer to me, really. Um, so
Of course, the
I
council
guess
should
there,
be approving those sorts of things. I think it wouldn't
yes,
even need for us to agree to give.
yeah. That's what I mean.
Yeah, you
Do you
mean it's
think they
just from
would?
us or it's from the council? What are you
No,
talking about now?
I meant from the council. Like if someone said, I want to make, let's say someone said, I want to make the Joy Stream podcast every week. I interview someone, some lead or a worker or a creator or someone, and I discuss what's going on. There have been some initiatives that have been started like that that are really cool. But let's say someone say, I'm going to make 20 episodes and I've already made 3 or something like that. Do you think the council would say yes to that? And they let's say they ask for $1,000. I don't know if that's reasonable, but just random kind of a I user one, random kind of a observation, a question.
No,
Do
I'm
you think that
not.
would
No,
pass?
I'm not actually sure. I think they should. They obviously should do, but I'm not sure what if there's necessarily a lot of incentive for
Oh,
them
right.
to always
Oh, that's a
vote
good point.
effectively on that sort of thing.
Yeah, there probably
Um,
isn't actually. Now that you say so. Yeah.
so that's kind of tricky.
Yeah.
And I think they would be focused on the tokenomics side of it, uh, and how that's going to affect the inflation and that kind of thing often.
Yes.
So that's kind of tricky, and I'm not sure if necessarily all of that kind of stuff would get voted through. So we may need to think about that, how that would be better incentivized from the council's point of view. Obviously, if they're founding members, then having these sorts of projects is just kind of good for them anyway in a kind of indirect way, and just
Mm-hmm.
increasing the general energy and kind of value of the project. But
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, that's a really good thing, kind of interesting point
Yeah,
that
that's a
they
hard
may not
problem.
actually. So yeah,
They may not support it, even leaving aside the $1,000. Maybe that's way too much. But just if there's no cape, I mean, I can't even make a KPI for that. Accept good proposals for spending. That is KPI number 10. That doesn't
yeah,
work.
it's very difficult.
You could look at the outcome of proposals for funds, but then that's like the proposal is probably going to end well after the council's finished. Like the council would finish in the week, and the outcome of the spending proposal may be only 2 months.
Yeah, it's super difficult to measure these things as well. Yeah, it's very challenging. I think we should have probably thought about that before, seeing as that's kind of one of the things we want to
Well,
incentivize in a big
maybe
way
yeah,
almost.
maybe that means we should. Maybe that means it should be a J.H. Genesis thing actually, because
Yeah, I would say
it would
so.
be too complicated to get the council to
It's
really
like,
internalize that.
I agree. It's like we've talked about sometimes. We've had the suggestion of moving the founding member program onto the testnet, so the participants kind of deciding who gets the
Yeah.
points and that kind of thing, and them grading it. But it's the same kind of complicated thing where that's now almost too far from JS Genesis for people to be able to make a good decision on those kind of things. So
Is that really the same thing? I'm not sure that's the same thing. Who raised that question, by the way? Was that Andy or I don't know. Someone asked this question recently. It was an idea. Maybe it was L1 Dev or they basically said, is it OKCO? No, is Nana Pas? I don't know. Nana. I'm just gonna say Nana. I don't think the person is here, at least with the same name. I think they said something like, "Can we just have them vote for each other?" And that doesn't seem to have the same problem. It doesn't have this timing problem because they just vote and they just say we rank everyone in the testnet in these terms, And then maybe you have like JS Genesis is like the filter to remove obvious kind of abuse, or I don't know what there could be, but I think there needs to be like a stopgap there. And then I'm not sure that's the same problem. The problem here is literally someone asked for $1,000 to pay for graphics for their podcast or something. And then the actual last 20th episode is delivered in 2 months and the council is long gone. And so you're going to give them TJoy or some weird scoring points after. It's just that's a very complicated thing. So I no, Ben, I disagree. I totally disagree.
So yeah, we've really gone very tangentially off this question now.
What was the question again? Sorry.
Most valuable activities to get more. Okay. No, that was a very useful tangent actually to think about that kind of stuff. But yeah. So the answer to that question is there's no change in the value in how valuable things are over the periods. And I have just said original projects are valuable. You know, in terms of family member points, sorry, you don't need to get it. Well, it would obviously be useful for you if you got it funded by the council. But those original projects will always, just so you can kind of pay for it.
Sure.
But if you do that out of your own pocket or with some other type of arrangement, then you'll still get family member points for it if we find out about it. The way that it's getting funded or organized won't generally have an impact on how many points you're going to get there. Is there anything else that gets family member points? I mean, I think just I would just refer people to my previous answer in the last couple. I would say, yeah, we have. I think we've already had this question really.
I would say what's really valuable is people who can identify and solve problems on their own. Now, what are the most severe problems at any given time may in fact change. But that principle, I think, still stands. So I think everyone can sense that now a big problem is onboarding. Like way back in the day, onboarding maybe wasn't a problem because there was nothing to onboard into, or like there was nothing to do, or there were too few people or something. Today, the problem is clearly onboarding into something. So explaining, educating, connecting with people, like all these things having to do with solving that problem seems to me to be a problem. But there are probably other problems that are invisible to me. So you just need to explain why it's a problem and then solve it, I think. But what it is going to be different at different times because the project's evolving, the people are evolving, the testnet tech features and everything is evolving. So for example, right now in Giza, we're going to get the distribution system up, which is basically like a CDN run by the DAO. And so, for example, a problem I foresee is that we don't have any good way to check whether that system works against like denial of service attacks or something like that. So a person looking at this, if they were technical or semi-technical, they could say, hey, I see we have a new distributor working group and people running distributor nodes to send the data to end users and so on. I am concerned maybe there could be a denial of service attack. I tested it on this one node and it crashed. So I've now written some scripts or something, or I want to write some scripts to actually allow us to run full-scale sort of simulated attacks on that infrastructure. So that specific problem, to the extent that it is a problem, didn't exist before, but the principle is always the same of contributing to solve whatever problems we have by your own initiative and capabilities. So I think we'll leave it at that. So that's the last question. We have 10 minutes of the scheduled time. I feel like I'd want to get some questions going from someone. We did have some in the chat here. Okay, before I dive into that, does anyone have the courage to just go ahead and ask some sort of question they want to get the answer to? We've probably said something that you're puzzled by or confused by.
And you'll get founding member points as well if you do a question now.
Yes.
No, seriously though, because that does take some confidence. So I will say that I'm not going to say amount, but that will be worth some points. The first person now to ask a question, if they have any, will get some points.
Nice, man. Come on. All right. So Robert told me the trick is just to just wait 2 minutes, 5 minutes. Someone has to say something eventually, or everyone just leaves. Oh, there we go. We have No Face. I think you need to do something to
I think I've asked.
actually
asked
if they need to use that feature, then they need to know about that. Does everyone know how to do that?
I'm sorry. I'm trying to unmute.
There we go. Hello. Oh, that's some feedback. Let me mute myself.
Hello. How's everyone doing?
Yep. Okay, we
Doing
can. Sorry.
awesome.
Ooh.
Yeah, sorry, doing well. Sorry, I misheard that.
Hey.
Can you guys hear me better now?
Now, yes, we do.
Yep.
How you doing?
All right. Yeah, it was my headphones, my Bluetooth headphones. Sorry about that. So, I guess
Oh,
over the past couple of weeks, what have you guys been the most proud of?
I think the audio's super choppy, so I can't hear you. I'm afraid, No Face. So can
Maybe
you say
type
it
that
again?
in. Could you maybe type that into the chat?
All right.
Yeah, I think
now
those
we
headphones may be
yeah.
causing some.
have the benefit of speaking with no audio from No Face. You're right, Alexander.
Was it something like what was the most inspiring contribution, or that we've seen over the last few weeks, or what was the most inspiring? Something like that. That's what I. Let's go to another question while he's typing that.
All right. Okay.
I think Andy has another one. The security of the project after it's released to the main net. Since everything is decided by a vote, and council members are elected for tokens, then the one who has more of them in the end is the main one. What place will Genesis take in the DAO after its launch? Will you be a part of the council? Are you going to have a majority in it?
Excellent questions. These are hard hitting. Let's make sure we cover all of it. Security of the project. So I think he means in terms of the integrity of the governance system here specifically. And so I think maybe the question is, Andy, that if JS Genesis plays no part in the political process of electing the council members and being a council member, is the system secure? I think is that the question? Would you say, Ben?
Something to do for me with the with who has which portion of tokens, and obviously that's going to affect the voting. I think it's what you said basically. Yeah, just if you just explore that, I'm sure that'll be useful.
Okay. Hey, Robert. By the way, Robert's here. And I'm sorry, No Face, that we didn't get your question. If your audio gets better, let's give it another crack. So
we've got no. Just to clarify, we've got No Face's question here from Tomato, who's written down.
Okay.
So we do have that there.
What accomplishment are you most proud of over the past few weeks, but accidentally sent it to me as a DM? What am I? So, like, is this a person? Is No Face asking me to recite something I've actually already stated? So he's checking whether I'm consistent. So my memory is extremely, extremely poor. So I don't actually remember what I'm most proud of, despite the fact that I may have already said that to you. So I don't know. Okay, I'm confusing myself. Okay. I think the question is just, what are we most proud of the past few weeks? I think what I'm most proud of, I'm not sure I should say for myself, but for the project, there are lots of excellent things happening. But one very, very important thing is that we've had two very senior people join. One is Robert, who's silently observing, who is our CMO, helping us with marketing. Because if you know one thing about Joystream, it's that Joystream don't do no marketing. That's been our principle so far. So definitely onboarding him. And then we have another person, Dimitri, who just joined the Discord today, I believe, who is a product manager with a lot of experience helping us make sure that both, well, Atlas, Pioneer, and our releases are being, first of all, getting a lot more input from users than we did before. So we're going to do a lot better with real data from users, informing how we design products and make product decisions, and simply just doing resource planning and scheduling so that we're able to deliver in a more timely manner, and freeing me up from doing those tasks in a bad way so that I can do other more strategic tasks. So those two hires, which actually I think are going to be pivotal for us, are the most important ones for the project. Other excellent work has been happening as well. All the NFT designs are now pretty much done, and I'm just so psyched about them. I can't wait for them to go out to go live. We had all the work that had gone into like the categories and the featuring, and the fact that we're gonna have the community control the featuring, which for a long time was very stale. I think that's going to be great. The Giza team has been doing excellent work trying to get that release done, and like we're this close. It's like testing and like the last mile issues that we're dealing with at this point. So across the board, there are a lot of things going well that I'm very happy with and proud of, and I'm only tangentially involved in most of them. So that I would say is a nice smattering of the different things we've gone through. I hope that was covered some interesting topics. No face. Feel free to follow up with anything. Let's get back to Andy, who asked basically, is it going to be secure? And I'm going to basically interpret him to be saying, I'm assuming it's a him. Sorry. Basically, if JS Genesis isn't there, will the train just sort of go, off the rails? And I don't think so. I really don't. Not only because JS Genesis will hold hopefully a relatively small share of the supply at that point in time. I think if we've done our job properly, the founding members are going to be the one who are in charge, more so than any random person showing up, somehow acquiring a gigantic stake of Joy tokens and then going amok. I just think that's very, very implausible. So I could see a million other problems before that being a likely problem. So no, I would say I'm not concerned about it. Certainly in the immediate launch of the system, no. Longer term, it's an open question. What does the long-term future looks like? Who holds what tokens in the long term? Like how well do voters pay attention to council elections? It's much better than the normal proposal system scheme that you have in other DAOs, where every voter has to vote on every single thing every time. But it still means, let's say councils have elections every 4 months, let's say, still means that you need a decent percentage of people to show up to make sure that it's hard to not rig a council. And the other feature that makes me kind of very kind of not that concerned, even if we would have a problem like that, is that we're going to have this concept of constitutionality, which means that if you're going to do a runtime upgrade, you can't pass it by one council. If you only need to pass it by one council, you just need to wait until people aren't paying attention, and then if the market cap is low and very few people are voting, then you could spend a few $1 million or whatever it requires, and then you've captured the council, and then you could do a runtime upgrade. So if you have that all prepared and ready, and then you're in charge, that'll be very bad. But with constitutionality, it means that if you're going to do something critical like a runtime upgrade, you have to get multiple councils in a row to say yes. So you submit it to one council, and they say, okay, yes, we accept this runtime upgrade. And then the next council has to say yes again. And then for however many in a row, and this can be different for different proposals. So let's say someone spends $15 million, gets some tokens on the market, captures one council, they put in a bad runtime. Okay, what have you get? You have one bad runtime. But now everyone knows. Everyone can see that there's a bad runtime in the proposal queue. and it's going to come up for re-election, let's say 3 more times or something. Okay, well, that's a problem for you, because then people are going to mobilize. Then there are going to be people saying, hey, we need to do something. And then there's going to be more coordination to make sure your proposal is going to have a problem in subsequent councils. So obviously there are a few parameters there about how many councils in a row for a runtime upgrade, how long should each council be. These are variables that we still have to work out. But I think with those two tools, I think you can make it quite unattractive. Like, of all the things you could do with a few $1 million, is that the thing you want to do? That's going to be really unclear to me. So, but again, for the long term is a long period of time. There, it's unclear. I'll be as honest to say that. I'm optimistic, but over a very long period of time, lots of weird things can happen. It'll be interesting to see. Do you, Ben, know of any other governance systems where something like that has happened, where it was just captured and then the people who captured it like blew it up?
This is such a new area. I think maybe in a few years we'll see this kind of maybe opportunistic these opportunistic attempts to kind of capture these DAOs almost. But I mean, this is so new. I think it's a bit unprecedented to even, from my perspective. I'm not aware of. I mean, in the sense of these kind of more advanced DAOs. I mean, obviously we do have these kind of primitive ones, but I'm not really sure what the incentive is in some of them. Yeah.
Sorry, you're not sure what the incentive is in what?
For capturing some of the DAOs that are currently about. I mean, there aren't obviously.
Well, there are some. I mean, there are some.
Yeah,
some
yeah.
DAOs
I'll admit that. I haven't really thought it through. It's a pretty terrible answer. I guess I might add to the question where Andy has kind of expanded on it and said, if the founding members only have 15% of the tokens, then how can they manage the platform? So could you, Badehho, maybe just say how the tokens are actually distributed on mainnet, to just clarify that? Because it's not really that the founding members have just 15% of the control. I think there was something about maybe governance blacklisting, which might have an effect on that.
That's also true.
There's also the investors, obviously, as well, would really wanting to be probably acting in a sensible way in terms of in the long-term interests of the platform. And I think it's 50% of the tokens are going to the community as a whole, maybe something close to that number, perhaps. So it's not bad people that are going to be given the tokens at the beginning. Maybe not founding members with like 50% control, but it's not going to be bad people at the genesis point, really. So I'm not sure where this control is going to be lost unless everybody sells their tokens and kind of gives the whole network away.
Well, then there probably is some other problem in that case. But yes, but I think one thing, Andy, is the 15% number is too low. Maybe by 2 or 3x, right? So that's one thing you have to keep in mind. At the same time, you say you will not participate in politics, so random people who buy tokens on the market will participate in it. So that's true. Random people will, to the extent they want to, but yes, random people will. To me, that's a feature. I don't think that's a problem. They can participate by being council members, but I think you'd have to be pretty sophisticated to really become a council member. I don't think you could just show up and have no clue and just have your Polkadot.js extension and like, hey, vote for me. I'm going to make sure things work out. I can't imagine who would stake for you in that case. You need to build up some credibility to really have a shot at convincing people to allow you on board. So I think, but random people eventually will make their way into the politics, so to speak, of the Joystream governance, and that to me is not a problem. That's, I guess, is a philosophical question. So will I personally do it? I probably need to make sure that I communicate consistently about that. So I will just say, I probably should wait to another time to give some clear, coherent statement about like what will I do and what will JS Genesis do. But I guess you could say, as a matter, like the overall framework, you should think of it as I am really aiming to not being involved, certainly running the council or voting for the council or doing anything. And as Ben just mentioned, we're going to build in this capability called blacklisting. Well, I should say, we are planning to do it. I can't guarantee it, but this is very likely, where you could basically say lock your account so from being able to participate in governance. And so if your account simultaneously is encumbered by some kind of lock or vesting schedule or something, you actually are just locked out. So that's something that we are looking into, make offering for people who are early in the system who are not founding members to opt into. So hopefully that's helpful. All right. Very interesting points being brought up, No Face. I agree. These are interesting points. Was there a question in the Russian Telegram about JoyStream's participation in Parachain on Kusama? Any plans? Was the general plan for participating in auctions on Polkadot? We do plan to participate. We can't guarantee it. We must have interoperability. I would say that's the number one feature we're looking for. You could do that through other ways. You don't have to be a parachain to get interoperability, but I think that's the smoothest way to do it. That's probably going to work best with the tools and the wallets and everything. So, but I think it's a little bit too early to say specifically on what relay chain would we try to do it, and like what would be the different schemes involved with a possible crowd loan, which may just be a random buzzword for whoever is not actually familiar with all the Polkadot stuff. But it's basically a way for a project like JoyStream to incentivize the Polkadot community to allow it to become connected to it and get the benefits that result from that. So we don't have specific plans, except that we are going to go for that unless there are some circumstances, like, for example, it's extremely expensive. That will be one reason to try to find another path. But I think there'll be more than those two relay networks. So there could be other more economic opportunities for that. So my voice is starting to give out a little bit here. Let's see. Is there anything else? Did I skip something? Oh, someone said something. Does anyone else have a question? I think No Face deserves the points, even though he wasn't able to transmit the message, Ben.
Yeah, I think his question has been answered now. We've got another question about thinking about expanding the JoyStream ecosystem. Do you think it makes sense to collaborate with indexing services like Subquery?
Excuse me. Are we thinking of expanding the ecosystem? What are other ways we could do it except for this specific way the person's mentioning? What else could that mean? We haven't really thought very much about partnerships and that kind of stuff. Frankly, because I haven't thought that there are many that make that much sense, but I haven't looked at it in detail. But you always see these partnerships, like,
yeah, it's bizarre. I see like everybody's partnered with Moonbeam, everybody's partnered with Akala, everybody's, you do see all of these very strange kind of partnerships, which I think are almost kind of a marketing gimmick. And I'm not even sure even how effective they are as a marketing gimmick either, because if you're kind of aware of one of these projects, you're probably aware of the other ones.
Right. There should be like a matrix thing where it's like row column is X partnered with Y, and it's like all full. It's like a dense matrix. Everyone's partnered with everyone else. So I think maybe partnerships for, I'm not sure. I'm not actually sure what to make of it, because a lot of these projects are, and I don't want to be criticized, but a lot of them are quite centralized. There's a company that's very critical for the thing that is running on mainnet. So you can say that there's a partnership between two actual corporate entities, but that's not really what we're going for in JoyStream. It's not like we want the JoyStream company to partner with some other company. Someone has a bunch of weird background noise. Can you?
I'm gonna try and mute.
Is it Robert actually?
Oh, sorry.
I'm not sure who it is.
Boris again. Okay.
So
keep going.
If anyone has any sensible suggestions for partnerships and what that means, if it's a partnership between JS Genesis and another company, I'm going to say it probably has very limited relevance because JS Genesis is not really where it's at. It's the DAO itself. So, what would it mean for a DAO to have a partnership? I haven't seen many of those yet. So, that's my sort of mood kill answer to that one. There was a question about subquery network specifically. Now, for those who don't know, what is a subquery network? It is currently it is a framework and a hosted service for you to build your own indexing or API query. APIs for fetching the history and state of your blockchain. So if you want to ask a quick question about who was slashed at what time or any of these kinds of questions that a full node may not give you easy and convenient access to, or may not have any information about at all, if it's not holding the full history, then you need something like a query layer. If you know the graph from the Ethereum ecosystem, subquery network is basically like that, but it's focused on the Polkadot ecosystem. Now, fun fact, we actually built an equivalent thing to subquery network, at least like the core tooling, before that was even launched, called Hydra. And that's still what we're using. And that framework was actually very, very powerful. It's not like a distributed service thing where there are indexers and curators and all these things that you would find in the graph. And I think that the subquery network wants to do. But you have this basic ability as a developer to spin up an API for your blockchain, basically. So we've already built that. And that was actually spun out of JS Genesis as a separate company. So the lead engineer that was working on that actually started a totally new project, which is called Subsquid, that people may be familiar with, which has now received some VC funding and is like building on its own. So our plan is actually to partner with Subsquid in the sense that we're going to use the Subsquid framework, which is an improvement. So they've put more effort and time into taking Hydra that we started with and enhancing it in various ways. Mostly, I think performance has been the main thing they focused on, which we badly need. And so we're going to be adopting that. And that's going to be great for us because it means we can stop trying to maintain a totally separate, huge service like that on our own internally. So that means it's very unlikely we'd use a subquery network, frankly, because a subquery network does not have the full feature set that we need that Hydra/Subsquid does have. There are a lot of details there about what exactly that involves, which I will not go into, but basically, these things aren't totally fungible. Tomatospur asks, if Joystream participates in a parachain auction, would the tokens come out from outside the current? Excellent question. This is one of the problems. It would come from the Genesis supply, right? And these numbers I'm seeing are quite aggressive, and they're quite aggressive for chains where I'm going to assume the valuation is already expected to be reasonably high, right? Now, I think what's happening in a lot of the parachains auctions is that there's extreme premium to being first, which has no value functionality-wise. It's just being first means you're like some kind of a selling point for the whole Polkadot community. And so this attention means that you become sort of like a speculative asset for everyone because everyone's coordinated on this one thing. Obviously, the people who have actually done well and become parachains are all good projects. So I'm not trying to say that they're not good. All I'm saying is the astronomical amount of value that they're giving away, I think is largely a function of that it gives them a lot of speculative demand because they are first. So being 10th probably has a lot less value. And so I expect the price to go down effectively. But this is a lot of speculation for me now about where that's going to go. But it would, unfortunately, come out of the Genesis supply, which means less for founding members, which is bad. Yeah. I do wonder sometimes what share of our community is Polkadot parachain oriented versus totally unrelated from it. I have no gauge of that at all.
My estimation is that people are pretty familiar with that side of things. So I would say at least 50%
Oh, I see.
of people would know what you're talking about now in terms of parachain auctions and things.
Okay.
So I wouldn't underestimate that side of it. So
Okay.
when people hear that we're not like really pursuing the parachain side of things, that may turn some people off. But if they listen to your detailed answer there, I think they would understand why that is. It's so interesting hearing this actually. When you kind of articulate it in that way, you get a sense of the quality of the engineers that we have if we're able to spin off another side project, which then gets, it's quite impressive, really. I would say.
Yes.
So we're such an under the radar project in that sense, and maybe because
I agree.
we've been so vocal in the whole parachain side of things and taking the marketing advantage from that, maybe. But yeah.
No, I agree. We've built a lot of stuff, I think, that's still not widely known about in the Polkadot ecosystem currently. So just the fact that we have our own totally different governance system when everyone else is using the off-the-shelf treasury kind of stuff, democracy stuff, that's a big differentiator in and of itself. All right. I'm just not gonna blow our own horn, but you're right. I agree with you. Go Joystream. I think that's it. I'm not just saying that to conserve my voice. I literally don't think there are any questions. And the only person who wanted to get founding member points for asking was No Face. And so at this point, guess we are over time anyway. What do you think, Ben?
I think unless anybody wants to ask a question in the next 30 seconds, we should, or 10 seconds, maybe even then it's over.
Oh,
probably.
We got Spet Sochi jumping in.
Hello, guys. How do you?
Hey, how do you do?
Thanks, I'm fine. How about you? Can
Excellent.
you hear me? Nice.
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Your audio is great.
Sorry, guys, I'm late for the meeting and I missed the question. How to?
Oh, you muted yourself, just so you know.
Okay, sorry. How to participate to the council member? So, for example, $25 million need to participate, but I don't have too much money. And Ben, could you remind, please, how to do that?
Yeah, so
I missed the meeting and I was.
Yeah, I got it. So so we did briefly. So we answered that question, but the let me try and remember what I said.
Let's start with the punchline. Ben will get you into the next council. How about that one? End of story.
If you can prove yourself, prove in some way that you'd be an effective council member, then just send me a DM and I'll vote for you. Almost is one bottom line from that. We're very keen to kind of. We were talking earlier about maybe even changing the system a bit so that JS Genesis will pseudo in the council. I mean, that's obviously needs a bit further discussion. We didn't really explore that very deeply. But yeah, we're working on that basically is the bottom line. Also, if you want to be in the next council, just the person that sends me the longest essay on where they'd like to be a council member will probably be a council member, if that makes sense. So if you can convince me, then we want new people and we've got some funds to use to vote for people. So yeah, sorry you missed that. So I'll hand back. We were just finishing that.
And my question is for the Bedejo. Bedejo, are you going to expand quantity of the participants to the council members or not?
Whether we will make the council bigger from 20?
Yeah, bigger than 20. Yeah, right.
I haven't heard anyone mention it before you just now. I think we should scale it to be as big as it can be while the test net works, and it's like semi-realistic. I think so. I don't know whether going from 20 to 30 or 40, how much it changes. I think someone like Tomato or Martin would be able to say whether that actually works. I would be open to doing it if it works.
It depends on the activity, right?
It depends on how well the council. For example, let's say you had 100 council members. One of the problems that we'd run into is it could get really hard to pass proposals, maybe because you need 80 people to show up or something. Of course, we could adjust the quorum, so maybe there's a way to get around it. So my honest answer is, I haven't thought about how much beyond that we can go. I know Martin has been quite skeptical about going to a big number. But there is value in going to a big number because then we can get more new people to have a try. So I see the value of that. But we haven't had any plans about it because it was already increased from 16 to 20 reasonably recently. So, but I don't think that's a reason for why we can't do it even further.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
And my next question has been related with implementing with Kusama, but you already replied. Yes, it is an interesting your solution. Are you going to implement or not? Kusama network.
You're saying whether we're going to be a parachain on Kusama network?
Parachain, yeah.
Yeah. So I was saying towards the end there that our goal is to become a parachain of either Polkadot or Kusama. The cost side is what we're concerned about. How much of the Genesis supply do we have to sacrifice for the DOT holders? Because those are tokens we can't give to the founding members, which are the ones that are actually going to do the work. The DOT holders, in principle, are not going to be doing any work unless they also get interested in the project. So, so therefore, we have to look. And I think what's happening now is, and I'm repeating myself a little bit here, but it's very expensive. So you have to give a lot of tokens of your native chain in the auction to be a parachain, for example, on Polkadot, because it's so early. So being early means you get a lot of attention, and this is worth a lot for chains to have this attention. So if you don't care about doing it for marketing purposes, if you only care about it for the functionality, which is interoperability and shared security, if this is what you actually want, you're probably better off waiting for the prices to decline down.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so that would probably be advisable for us because I don't see it's not a useful marketing strategy for us because it doesn't serve any of our goals. If more people just knew about it and it costs a ton of tokens, there are probably cheaper ways to have general awareness than that for us. I think for other chains like Akala and these other guys, they're trying to build like maybe DeFi type platforms. So it's great for other people to be able to like start providing liquidity and doing lots of things with their assets. For us, that isn't so relevant. We're more trying to get people who can do work, like work in the council, work as content creators, work running infrastructure, like putting it in some blood, sweat, and tears, not just putting capital on the chain. So, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. We're still a ways off from that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for the reply.
Maybe I could ask you. So to you, would you like us to be a Kusama parachain, and why or why not to you?
To be honest, I never participated in Kusama, but it's interesting for me. You can stack the coins in order to get in the future benefit from different projects. So it will be interesting to invest to get investors. Probably this reason. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Why not?
It's a very interesting mechanism. I agree. I think people who've invested in some of the chains have done very well, like Moon River, which is the Moon Meme Canary network and stuff, done very well. So it's been a good investment.
Many friends have already participated in this project and got a lot of big profit.
There you go.
And I remember that you mentioned in last meeting, project is going to start in the summer, yeah, in next year. Go live, I mean.
Yeah, well, it's a little bit of a shifting target. I would say spring. So let's say March to June, somewhere in that interval. Yeah.
Let's imagine if project need to hand over in 1 month. And what's the pain right now on the project? What's the problem? Is it's ready project for this moment or not?
You're saying what prevents us from launching in 1 month from today? That's your question.
Yeah.
Excellent question. Yeah.
How do you estimate readiness the project at the moment? Where is the main pain and so on?
I think there are 2 categories of problems. One is social. So we need founding members. We now have 28. That's insufficient. So if we just launched in a month, and let's say we get to 30 in a month, this is too low of a critical number of founding members. So even if all the technology and the products and everything was perfect, we don't have enough people who know what to do, how to run the system to launch confidently in 1 month. So that's one category of problems. Then there's obviously the technology and products. And so on the technology side, the most important thing is the runtime, because it's the most risky to try to upgrade. It's the most difficult thing to fix, like migrations and all sorts of things on if you want to do them later. If you change something, you have to change all the other software that lives on top has to update itself. So it's very painful to change. Yeah. So you want to try to get as most of it as stable and ready and mature as possible, where you think the governance system is robust enough, you think the core feature set on the content side and the infrastructure side and the NFT side, it all is good enough. And then you can go live. You don't want to launch where there's like big problems still. And so for us, getting to that milestone of having the runtime be ready involves having another audit. So audits are like these security audits where a security company comes in and looks at your source code basically and says, we think you have problem X, problem Y, problem Z. You need to fix them in these ways. So we've done that one time for our runtime already. And we need to do one more time because we've made a bunch of changes. Like all the NFT stuff we've built recently that hasn't been audited. And one of the problems actually with auditing is there's so much demand for auditors that you have to book 5 to 8 months in advance to have access to someone to audit your blockchain because there's so much demand. So that means you have to, right now we've already secured 2 auditors. So if we have to be sure that we can have something ready to be audited in a long period of time into the future. So if we wanted to go live 1 month from now, we would have had to say early in 2021, we would have had to say, sort of tie our hands and say, we will go live in December. We already know exactly the feature set, everything, and we will secure our auditors right now. So that's very difficult to know with certainty so far ahead exactly where you have to be. So that's sort of a unfortunate business aspect to the whole crypto industry. It's very hard to get new auditors. It's a skill that's very difficult. So you have a very limited set of auditors, and they have a very long backlog of people to deal with. Okay, I said a lot there. Hopefully, did that make sense to you?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm satisfied. Yeah. Okay.
Great. All right. Anyone else? Does he get points now? Obviously, he may be ending up on the council, as you just said. So remember, Spet Sochi, to send in your essay to Ben for why you need to be on the council. But does he get his founding member points?
I think you get some founding member
points. I think
so.
He had like 4 questions or something.
Definitely. So if you just put in your report for this period that you were on the call and answering questions, asking questions, sorry. And I said that I promised you points, then I'll refer to this evidence. Sorry.
Yes, you probably know Russian community collects money and send to the newcomer and help us this way. Because it's really tricky to earn a lot of money, $25 million. It's really difficult.
Yeah, I completely understand. Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. The council has a lot of barriers to entry if you're not kind of familiar with how it's all set up and it's not that transparent with how the voting is working or that kind of thing. So I understand that the Russian community have kind of got their own mechanisms for that, which is really good.
So no pain, no gain.
No pain, no gain. Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's a good way of describing it. Perfect.
All right, my throat's starting to give out. Is there anyone else who has a great question? No, it doesn't have to be. Has a question? Go. No pain, no gain. All that stuff. I'm doing the thing, Robert, just like you said. All right, it didn't work. I chickened out. All right, it's good to have you all with us. I'm surprised we got this many people for this urgently and organized call. I still think we covered a bunch of useful stuff. So thank you very much, everyone. If you have questions for next time, start compiling them as soon as possible so we can prioritize and give you some good content around that. And thank you very much, Ben. You were a great sparring partner. And Spat and No Face, get your Bluetooth in order, and we'll have you on next time.
Thank you very much for meeting. Bye bye. Talk to you later.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.